Subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon, to never miss a video from us. Hi, welcome to Test Prep Training. Today we will discuss about Exam 70-740, Windows Server 2016. Many organizations around the globe have moved to Windows Server 2016. This has led to a rise in demand of professionals who have the skills and knowledge for installation, storage, and compute with Windows Server 2016. What is Microsoft 70-740 exam? Microsoft 70-740, Installation, Storage, and Compute with Windows Server 2016, is designed to validate your knowledge and skills in implementing high availability, maintaining, and monitoring server environments, implementing Windows containers, and storage solutions, as well as Hyper-V. It is important for you to have expertise in local and server storage solutions. Additionally, you should also have the understanding about how to configure disks and volumes, as well as have skills in disaster recovery. The knowledge of data duplication, high availability, and storage spaces direct are also very critical to excellent performance in this certification test. Now we will discuss about why go for Microsoft 70-740 exam. Microsoft certifications help you stand out of the crowd by validating your skills. You earn the Microsoft badge that comes as an added advantage to this certification. This Microsoft badge can be shared online within your professional network as it trusted and verifiable. Here are some benefits. First, enhances employability. Second, validates your skills. Third, higher growth opportunities. Fourth, provides competitive edge. Fifth, brings recognition. Some other benefits. First, the certification validates your mastery in Windows Server 2016. Enhances your employability, and makes you job ready. Second, it also helps you chase further advanced goals in the field of IT. This certification guarantees high growth opportunities. About 23% of Microsoft certified professionals reported receiving up to a 20% salary increase. Third, it provides you with a competitive edge over non-certified candidates. It is estimated that certified employees earn 15% more than those without certification, and are nearly 20% more productive. Fourth, you'll make immediate impact as a Microsoft certified professional. This credential will help you in getting noticed and bring recognition. Key learning from the exam. The key learning from the exam include: first, implementing storage solutions. Second, implementing Hyper-V. Third, implementing Windows containers. Fourth, implementing high availability. Fifth, maintaining and monitoring server environments. Exam details: Microsoft 70-740. The Microsoft 70-740, Installation, Storage, and Compute with Windows Server 2016 includes 40 to 60 multiple choice and multi-repose questions that are to attempted in a total duration of 120 minutes. The exam is available in 7 different languages, which is a good prospect for all the candidates around the globe. Lastly, to successfully pass the exam you need to achieve a score of 700 or more. Now we will talk about prerequisite for the exam. There are no prerequisite or eligibility listed by Microsoft for the exam. However, Microsoft recommends that you should have experience with local and server storage solutions, including the configuration of disks and volumes, data deduplication, high availability, disaster recovery, storage spaces direct, and failover clustering solutions. You should also be familiar with managing Hyper-V and containers, as well as maintaining and monitoring servers in physical and compute environments. Target audience. This Microsoft 70-740 exam suits all IT professionals who wish to validate their skills regarding the installation, configuration, management, and maintenance of Active Directory domain services, and implementing group policy objectives. Successful exam candidates are also good at implementing and managing Active Directory services, web application proxy, Active Directory projects management services, and Active Directory Federation services. Exam course: Microsoft 70-740. The Microsoft 70-740 exam course includes 6 modules. These modules help you gain profound knowledge and aid your preparations. First, install Windows servers and host and compute environments, which compromises 10 to 15% weightage for this exam. Second, implement storage solutions, which compromises 15 to 20% weightage for this exam. Third, implement Hyper-V, which compromises 20 to 25% weightage for this exam. 4th, implement Windows containers, which compromises 5 to 10% weightage for this exam. 5th, implement high availability, which compromises 30 to 35% weightage for this exam. 6th, maintain and monitor server environments, which compromises 10 to 15% weightage for this exam. Let us now discuss about exam course in detail. First, install Windows servers and host and compute environments, 10 to 15%. Number 1, install, upgrade, and migrate servers and workloads. It contains: first, determine Windows Server 2016 installation requirements. Second, determine appropriate Windows Server 2016 editions per workloads. Third, install Windows Server 2016, install Windows Server 2016 features and roles. Fourth, install and configure Windows Server Core, manage Windows Server Core installations using Windows PowerShell, command line, and remote management capabilities. Fifth, implement Windows PowerShell desired state configuration to install and maintain integrity of installed environments, perform upgrades and migrations of servers and core workloads from Windows Server 2008 and Windows Server 2012 to Windows Server 2016. Sixth, determine the appropriate activation model for server installation, such as automatic virtual machine activation, key management service, and Active Directory-based activation. Number 2, create, manage, and maintain images for deployment. It contains: first, plan for Windows Server virtualization. Second, assess virtualization workloads using the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit. Third, determine considerations for deploying workloads into virtualized environments. Fourth, update images with patches, hotfixes, last cumulative updates, and drivers. Fifth, install roles and features in offline images. Sixth, manage and maintain Windows Server Core and VHDS using Windows PowerShell. Second, implement storage solutions, 15 to 20%. Number 1, configure disks and volumes. First, configure sector sizes appropriate for various workloads. Second, configure GWT partition table disks. Third, create VHD and VHDX files using disk management or Windows PowerShell. Fourth, determine when to use NTFS and refs file systems. Fifth, configure NFS and SMB shares using Server Manager. Sixth, configure SMB share and session settings using Windows PowerShell. Seventh, configure SMB server and SMB client configuration settings using Windows PowerShell. Eighth, configure file and folder permissions. Number 2, implement server storage. It contains: first, configure storage pools. Second, implement simple, mirror, and parity storage layout options for disks or enclosures. Third, expand storage pools, configure tiered storage. Fourth, configure ISCSI target and initiator, configure ISNS. Fifth, configure data center bridging. Sixth, configure multipath I/O. Seventh, determine usage scenarios for storage replica. Eighth, implement storage replica for server-to-server, cluster-to-cluster, and stretch cluster scenarios. Number 3, implement data deduplication. First, implement and configure deduplication. Second, determine appropriate usage scenarios for deduplication. Third, monitor deduplication. Fourth, implement a backup and restore solution with deduplication. Third, implement Hyper-V, 20 to 25%. Number 1, install and configure Hyper-V. It contains: first, determine hardware and compatibility requirements for installing Hyper-V. Second, install Hyper-V. Third, install management tools, upgrade from existing versions of Hyper-V. Fourth, delegate virtual machine management. Fifth, perform remote management of Hyper-V hosts using Windows PowerShell Direct. Sixth, implement nested virtualization. Number 2, configure virtual machine settings. It contains: first, add or remove memory in a running VM. Second, configure dynamic memory. Third, configure non-uniform memory access support. Fourth, configure smart paging. Fifth, configure resource metering. Sixth, manage integration services, create and configure Generation 1 and 2 VMs, and determine appropriate usage scenarios. 7th, implement enhanced session mode. 8th, create Linux and FreeBSD VMs. 9th, install and configure Linux integration services. 10th, install and configure FreeBSD integration services. 11th, implement secure boot for Windows and Linux environments. 12th, move and convert VMs from previous versions of Hyper-V to Windows Server 2016 Hyper-V. 13th, export and import VMs. 14th, implement discrete device assignment, troubleshoot VM configuration versions. Number 3, configure Hyper-V storage. It contains: first, create VHDS and VHDX files using Hyper-V Manager. Second, create shared VHDX files. Third, configure differencing disks. Fourth, modify virtual hard disks. Fifth, configure pass-through disks. Sixth, resize a virtual hard disk. Seventh, manage checkpoints, implement production checkpoints. Eighth, implement a virtual fiber channel adapter. Ninth, configure storage quality of service. Number 4, configure Hyper-V networking. It contains: first, add and remove virtual network interface cards. Second, configure Hyper-V virtual switches. Third, optimize network performance. Fourth, configure MAC addresses. Fifth, configure network isolation. Sixth, configure synthetic and legacy virtual network adapters. Seventh, configure NIC deeming in VMs. Eighth, configure virtual machine queue. Ninth, enable remote direct memory access on network adapters, bound to a Hyper-V virtual switch using switch embedded teaming. 10th, configure bandwidth management. 4th, implement Windows containers, 5 to 10%. Number 1, deploy Windows containers. It contains: first, determine installation requirements and appropriate scenarios for Windows containers. Second, install and configure Windows Server container host in physical or virtualized environments. Third, install and configure Windows Server container host to Windows Server Core in a physical or virtualized environment. Fourth, install Docker Enterprise Edition on Windows Server. Fifth, configure Docker startup options. Sixth, install a base container image. Seventh, tag an image. Eighth, remove a container. Ninth, create Windows Server containers. 10th, create Hyper-V containers. Number 2, manage Windows containers. It contains: first, manage Windows containers by using Docker CLI. Second, manage container networking, manage container data volumes. Third, manage resource control. Fourth, create new container images using Dockerfile. Fifth, manage container images using Docker Hub repository for public and private scenarios. Sixth, manage container images using Microsoft Azure. Fifth, implement high availability, 30 to 35%. Number 1, implement high availability and disaster recovery options in Hyper-V. It contains: first, implement Hyper-V replica. Second, implement live migration including shared nothing live migration. Third, configure CREDSP or Kerberos authentication protocol for live migration. Fourth, implement storage migration. Number 2, implement failover clustering. It contains: first, implement workgroup, single, and multi-domain clusters. Second, configure quorum. Third, configure cluster networking. Fourth, restore single node or cluster configuration. Fifth, configure cluster storage. Sixth, implement cluster aware updating. Seventh, implement cluster operating system rolling upgrade, configure, and optimize cluster shared volumes. Eighth, configure clusters without network names. Ninth, implement scale-out file server. 10th, determine different scenarios for the use of softs versus file server for general use. 11th, determine usage scenarios for implementing guest clustering. 12th, implement a clustered storage spaces solution using shared SAS storage enclosures. 13th, implement storage replica, implement cloud witness. 14th, implement VM resiliency. 15th, implement shared VHDX as a storage solution for guest clusters. Number 3, implement storage spaces direct. It contains: First, determine scenario requirements for implementing Storage Spaces Direct. Second, enable Storage Spaces Direct using Windows PowerShell. Third, implement a disaggregated Storage Spaces Direct scenario. Fourth, implement a hyperconverged Storage Spaces Direct scenario. Number 4, manage failover clustering. It contains: first, configure role-specific settings, including continuously available shares. Second, configure VM monitoring, configure failover, and preference settings. Third, implement stretch and site-aware failover clusters, enable, and configure node fairness. Number 5, manage VM movement in clustered nodes. It contains: first, perform a live migration. Second, perform a quick migration. Third, perform a storage migration. Fourth, import, export, and copy VMs. Fifth, configure VM network health protection. Sixth, configure drain on shutdown. Number 6, implement network load balancing. It contains: first, install NLB nodes. Second, configure NLB prerequisites. Third, configure affinity, configure port rules. Fourth, configure cluster operation mode. Fifth, upgrade an NLB cluster. Sixth, maintain and monitor server environments, 10 to 15%. Number 1, maintain server installations. It contains: first, implement Windows Server Update Services solutions. Second, configure WSUS groups, manage patch management in mixed environments. Third, implement an anti-malware solution with Windows Defender. Fourth, integrate Windows Defender with WSUS and Windows Update. Fifth, perform backup and restore operations using Windows Server Backup. Sixth, determine backup strategies for different Windows Server roles and workloads, including Hyper-V host, Hyper-V guests, Active Directory, file servers, and web servers using Windows Server 2016 native tools and solutions. Number 2, monitor server installations. First, monitor workloads using Performance Monitor, Server Manager, Event Viewer. Second, configure data collector sets, determine appropriate CPU, memory, disk, and networking counters for storage and compute workloads. Third, configure alerts. Fourth, monitor workloads using Resource Monitor, manage, and monitor Windows Server by using Windows Admin Center. Preparatory Guide, Microsoft 70 to 740. The key to successfully pass an exam is by preparing right. Preparations demand consistency and determination. We present you our specially curated preparatory guide to help you achieve the Microsoft 70 to 740 exam certification in the very first attempt. First, refer the official exam guide. Second, devise a study plan. Third, study the traditional way through books. Fourth, go for training course. Fifth, practice tests. Sixth, join online forums. Let us discuss preparatory guide in detail. Step 1, refer the official exam guide. Go through the official guide of Microsoft 70 to 761 exam. Familiarize yourself with all the objectives and course domains of the exam. Devote enough time to each topic, and have in-depth knowledge of the subject. The official guide acts as a blueprint for the exam, hence always remember to refer it. Step 2, devise a study plan. Strategize a study plan for your preparations. Always begin with brushing up your weaker sections. Devote enough attention to topics which have a higher weightage in the exam. Following your plan will help you remain consistent, and also help in avoiding distractions. Remember, the key to excel is to start early, hence begin with your preparations, and stay motivated. Step 3, study the traditional way through books. Books are the most important ingredient of preparation. We recommend you to refer the following books. 1. Exam Ref 70 to 740 Installation, Storage, and Compute with Windows Server 2016 First Edition by Craig Zacher. 2. MCSA Windows Server 2016 Study Guide, Exam 70 to 740 Second Edition, by William Panic. Step 4, Go for Training Course. Microsoft provides its own training courses for the preparation of this exam. We know that being a practical exam, it requires hands-on training. To solve this issue, Microsoft has come up with training options in 2 modes. First, instructor-led training. The Microsoft instructor-led training is similar to the traditional classroom training setting. It features IT experts with in-depth knowledge of the 70 to 740 exam objectives to help you pass your exam at the first attempt. Second, online training. Microsoft offers the following online training courses. INF 211X, Windows Server 2016, Infrastructure. INF 213X, Windows Server 2016, Basic Storage. INF 215X, Windows Server 2016, Virtualization. Step 5, Practice Tests. Practice tests are significant to familiarize yourself with the exam format. They keep your preparations under check, and are a great way to identify gaps in your knowledge that you can work upon. Also, attempting multiple practice tests help you prepare well. There are plenty of practice tests available. Remember to choose the right and authentic ones. Step 6, Join online forums. Joining a forum is an excellent way of preparing for an exam. You'll get to connect with other like-minded individuals preparing for the same exam. Such groups allow you and others to share tips, doubts, experiences, and challenges with each other. You get to learn from the expertise of your peers, and therefore, joining a community is an important step while preparing. For more such videos, subscribe to our channel.